Lately, you've been seeing this pop up everywhere, right? And your hand just goes on autopilot. Click Accept All. Because you're in a hurry. You're not trying to negotiate international privacy law at 11:47 p.m. You're just trying to read the page. Most of the time, you don't even know what you agreed to. You just know the pop-up is blocking the content like, before you enter, sign this 8-page contract real quick. And the funniest part is the design. Accept All is big, bright, friendly, like it's handing you a cookie and a hug. The no thanks option? That one's basically playing hide and seek inside 5 layers of menus. So yeah, most people tap, accept, and move on. Alright, what is a cookie, and why is the internet so desperate for your yes? Picture walking into a coffee shop for the first time. The barista asks your name, you order, and somehow they're already clocking your whole vibe. Iced milk coffee, no sugar, right? And don't tell me, today you're grabbing that Halloween hot dog bun thing again. Now imagine they write all that down on a tiny slip of paper, tuck it into your pocket, and say, next time you come in, just bring this. We'll know it's you. That little slip, that's basically a cookie. Because websites, they forget everything. The web runs on HTTP, which is a nerdy way of saying the site doesn't naturally remember you. It doesn't remember whether you're logged in, what's in your cart, or if you prefer dark mode. Every visit is the site acting like, hi, nice to meet you, even if you were just there 10 seconds ago. So the first time you land on a page, the server can quietly hand your browser a tiny data note, literally called a set cookie. Inside is usually a unique ID, like a membership number, plus whatever the site needs to keep things running smoothly. Your cart, your login status, your settings. Your browser saves that note on your phone or computer. Then the next time you click anything on that same site, your browser automatically sends it back, like, yep, same person. And the server goes, oh, welcome back. Your cart's still there, dark mode's still on, you're still signed in, no awkward reintroductions. It's a tiny piece of data, but it's enough for a website to recognize you like a regular. Super convenient, and also very easy to turn into following you around if someone decides to get creepy with it. So, why cookies? Who looked at a tiny chunk of browser data and thought, yep, that's dessert. The name actually comes from an old programming term, a magic cookie. Back in the 70s and 80s, that was the idea of a small piece of data a system could hand you, and when you brought it back, it would still be intact, and it would basically prove who you were or what you were allowed to do. Like a secret little token. Later on, when modern web cookies showed up, the name stuck because it fit the concept perfectly. A tiny packet passed around that carries just enough info to recognize you. And there's a second reason the word cookie feels weirdly accurate, even if it sounds adorable. It's basically the internet version of leaving crumbs. You know that old fairy tale, Hansel and Gretel? The kids get led into the woods and Hansel drops crumbs along the way so they can find their path back. Cookies on the web work the same way. Except now the crumbs aren't on the forest floor, they're on your laptop. And instead of helping you get home, they help websites go, oh, you again. It's kind of cute, until you realize how many places are dropping crumbs at the same time. And that's where the story shifts, because cookies didn't start as a creepy tracking thing. They were invented for a reason that was honestly pretty practical. Online shopping was a mess without them. Back in 1994, the internet was still in its awkward baby phase. Websites were simple, online shopping was brand new, and the web had this annoying habit of forgetting everything. You'd add stuff to your cart, click around, maybe hit refresh, and boom, your cart would just vanish like it got raptured. At Netscape, there was a young engineer named Lou Montulli. He was 24, and he was trying to solve that exact problem. How do you make a website remember that you're the same person from one click to the next without forcing you to start over every time? His solution gave websites a memory, just enough to keep track of who you were so your shopping cart didn't vanish every time you moved to a new page. And your browser would bring it back on the next request. And just like that, the modern HTTP cookie was born. Originally, it wasn't about ads. It was just a practical fix, so websites could remember you from one click to the next. But once you invent a tool that helps a site remember you, it doesn't take long before other people realize it can be used to recognize you in places you didn't expect. And that's where we get into the two kinds of cookies, the helpful ones and the ones that follow you like they're on your payroll. Alright, this is where cookies split into two very different categories. First, you've got first-party cookies. These are created by the actual website you're on. They're the helpful ones, keeping you logged in, remembering what's in your cart, saving your settings. Without them, the internet would feel like a store where the cashier makes you prove who you are after every single item. Then there are third-party cookies, and these are the ones people get mad about. They don't come from the site you're visiting. They come from stuff embedded on the page, ad networks, trackers, social buttons, analytics pixels, and their whole job is to recognize you across different websites. So you search something random, like that Halloween hot dog bun thing, and suddenly it follows you. You open a news site, there it is. You check the weather, there it is. You hop onto a totally unrelated app and it's like the internet goes, "So, still thinking about the bun?" That's not your imagination. That's third-party cookies doing their little crumb trail routine across the web. And once you know that, the next question is pretty obvious. If tracking cookies are so controversial, why does almost everyone still hit accept all like it's muscle memory? Because those banners aren't really designed to help you choose. They're designed to make you give in fast. For a long time, visiting a website basically meant tracking could happen by default. No banner, no real choice. Sites could collect data in the background, and most people had no idea it was even happening. Then Europe changed the rules. Around 2018, websites were expected to ask clearly before they track you. And that's why cookie banners suddenly showed up everywhere. But here's the problem. A lot of sites didn't treat it like a real choice. They treated it like a speed bump, something you click through. They offer options, but the design quietly funnels you toward yes. And that's why that big accept all button matters. When you hit accept all, you're usually not just approving the helpful cookies from the site, like keeping you logged in or saving your cart. You're also approving whatever tracking partners are bundled into that banner. That can mean more data being collected quietly, what you click, what you linger on, what you skip, enough to build a profile and shape what you get shown later. Best case, it's just annoying. Worst case, you get gently steered. Different recommendations, different offers, sometimes a slightly different version of the internet based on what the system thinks you'll do next. If people actually understood what they were saying yes to, nobody would tap accept all. And if nobody taps it, a lot of sites lose access to the tracking data they're counting on. So they responded with dark patterns, design tricks that quietly shove you toward the choice they want. You've seen the layout. Accept all is big, bright, and right there. It basically looks like the continue button. But reject? Sometimes it's not even on the first screen. It's usually buried under preferences or cookie settings, and you end up clicking through a couple screens, or turning off categories one by one just to say no. And some sites go even further with a cookie wall. No acceptance, no access. The banner doesn't feel like a choice, it feels like a toll. So most people do the fastest thing. Tap accept all and move on, because nobody wants to wrestle with a pop-up just to read one article. And that's the trap. It looks like you agreed, but the design makes agreement the easiest path. You don't have to live like this forever. On Chrome, Firefox, or Edge, you can go into your privacy settings and block third-party cookies or switch to a stricter tracking protection mode. That way, the site can still remember your login and your cart, but the follow you around the internet stuff gets a lot harder. You can also use extensions that clean this up automatically, like uBlock Origin, Privacy Badger, or I don't care about cookies. They either block trackers or get rid of a lot of those consent pop-ups, so you're not clicking buttons like it's your second job. And on your phone, browsers like Brave or Firefox Focus block a ton of third-party tracking by default. The point is, you can keep the useful cookies, the ones that make websites actually work without handing over a full backstage pass to the ad empire. So yeah, cookies are genuinely useful. They're the reason your cart doesn't disappear, your login stays put, and your settings don't reset every time you blink. But they're also a classic two-sided tool. When they're used the right way, they make the web smoother. When they're abused, they turn into little trackers that help strangers piece together your habits. The good news is, once you understand what's happening, that pop-up gets a lot less scary and a lot less persuasive. Next time it shows up, don't panic tap accept all. Just remember, you're not Hansel trying to find your way home. You don't need to leave cookie crumbs behind for random companies to follow. If you want, drop a comment and tell me what you're using. Chrome, Safari, iPhone, Android, and I'll walk you through the best way to block the tracking stuff on your phone.